Younger viewers may not remember, but there was a time not so long ago where Manchester United only used to celebrate winning proper trophies and not the Carabao Cup. This video, we get them back to that. We're going to win the league. We're going to get them back in the Champions League. We're going to turn Manchester United back into Manchester United. And we're going to be doing it with the closest approximation I can get to a current league table. I managed to find a database that was up to date as of last weekend's fixtures. It doesn't include anything that happened yesterday because I'm recording this video before yesterday happened. So the matches from yesterday are simulated. How accurate were they? I suggest Man City probably didn't lose 2-1 at home to Crystal Palace, but I may have just set myself up to look like an idiot. Who knows? But we are starting things off immediately with today's fixture. Manchester United away against their biggest rivals, Liverpool, who, of course, top of the Premier League. One thing that is different to reality, we've only been able to get the realistic Premier League fixtures. I simulated this 30 times and could not make a scenario where Manchester United got knocked out of the Champions League in the group stage because it's frankly absurd. So we are still going to be in the Champions League. I know the groups are wrong as well. The groups generate randomly, all that kind of stuff. So Champions League, unfortunately, not going to be quite as it is in real life, but the league very much is. The board are looking for me to qualify for the Europa League, and I think that's probably a pretty reasonable target considering just how much the big clubs and Spurs are starting to pull away at the top of the table there. And of course, we've got a transfer window just on the horizon as well. Apparently only £6 million to spend and not much free on the wage budget. But there are a number of players who are out of contract at the end of the season, including such legends as Johnny Evans and Tom Heaton. I honestly don't know what we're going to do without them if we let those contracts expire. And also some big salaries, the likes of Martial, Lindelof, Ericsson. In fact, Ericsson's got 2 more years, but Lindelof, Martial, Wan-Bissaka, that's nearly £500,000 a week in salary right there for those 3 superstars. So we are gonna do some transfers. We are gonna take our time because this isn't going to be a 1-season fix. I reckon 3 years. That's the target. 3 years, not including this one. 3 years should be enough to get Manchester United back to being able to compete for the Premier League title, regularly competing in the Champions League, turn them back into a big club. Again, the kind of club that puts the reserves out in the Carabao Cup because nobody cares about winning it. That's the goal. Let's go do our January transfers. But before we do that, I guess we actually need a plan. I've had a little bit of an inspection of the squad to try and work out who our best players are and how they fit together into a system. And it seems like the most obvious way they fit together is this one. We don't have any grumpy players in this version of the universe. So I guess the removal of the previous manager means that the likes of Sancho and Varane are magically happy to play for Manchester United again. So I figure we can probably use them because we kind of need to, because the strength in depth we've got in their positions isn't ideal. You go beyond Sancho and it's pretty slim pickings. Centre back, the situation is even worse. There are a lot of players who are kind of hovering around the place who don't really fit into this kind of shape. Mason Mount in particular. We're not really using central midfielders. He doesn't really fit in here. What a weird signing he was. And the likes of Martial, Evans, Malacia, Van der Beek. These are the guys who we know we're not going to be using. Let's bin those guys off. Try and generate as much money as we can through doing that. It's not a terrible side. I mean, it is a team that is an 11 that you figure should do quite well, but for whatever reason is down in 7th place and well off the pace of where they would want to be. The media think we should be looking good for a 5th place finish. I think a lot is going to be dictated by how we get on in January. Ignore all this stuff. All of the results that have happened up to this point didn't happen in Football Manager. So the top goal scorer and stuff is all based on yesterday's fixture. Just one of those things from jumping into the season partway through. You can see all the fixtures that were hard coded, and then you've got the ones that the game has to simulate because you can't hard code cup games. So I think my plan is to try and sell on those players I mentioned before, the ones we've already got on the transfer list. Onana I like a sweeper keeper. Let's ignore real life. He should be fine as the goalkeeper. Centre backs, I think if you're going with Varane and Martinez as starters, I don't know that any of the rest of these are up to being backups. I think if we could get rid of Maguire, Lindelof and Evans and bring in 2 new centre-backs, that would be ideal. At left-back, there's only really Luke Shaw. There's not really much beyond him. Malacia is already on the transfer list, and I've got no intention of bringing him off of it. I might actually give a new contract to Wan-Bissaka because I think he should be fine competing with Dalot for the other right back spot. Defensive midfield, playing Christian Eriksen there is a long way from ideal, but again, pretty slim pickings once you get behind him. Are you serious? Tom Huddleston is a Manchester United player now. I feel like they're just trolling at this point with some of these signings. Casemiro is his partner, but of course Casemiro getting on a bit, and again there's not really much in the way of strength in depth in that double pivot. Maybe we can retrain Mason Mount to play there, or maybe we can fool somebody into giving us big money to sign Mason Mount. As it is, he's likely to be a backup for the entirety of the attacking midfield 3. The likes of Anthony, probably someone we're going to be looking to move on. Some of these, I mean, someone like Garnacho we're likely to keep around, decent potential, still young. Martial, of course, we're going to be bidding off, and we're going to need at least one striker because Højlund, yeah, he's a wonder kid, but he's the only real out-and-out striker at the club. I don't understand how this is a squad that's been put together by a man who's had a year and a half in the job. It is genuinely fascinating. January needs to be busy. I don't know if it's going to be because there's not much money there at the moment. Let's see if we can make it to January 1st, I guess, because there are some tough games coming up. Liverpool, West Ham, Villa and Forest all to be played in the league, plus Arsenal in the Carabao Cup before we can get to January. And hopefully we'll have shifted some of these players out by then. Well, it's fair to say I haven't had the best run of results since I've been in charge. We lost against Liverpool. We drew against West Ham. We drew against almost everybody. We did beat Aston Villa 3-0 in the Premier League, but that's the only league win we've had. So as we hit the end of January, this is what the Premier League table looks like. Everyone's played 22 games. We're now 6 points behind West Ham in 5th place. Remember, we need to be qualifying for the Europa League, so I think that's top 6. So only 3 points behind Spurs. We're not miles off the pace, and we have done some significant transfer business. The most significant was Rafael Varane going to Al Ittihad for £82 million. We didn't offer him out. They just came in with an offer, and yeah, I mean, it was far too big to turn down. So that's funded most of the business. We also sold Malacia for £14 million to PSV. Tom Heaton and Johnny Evans both left the club for next to nothing. Who else has gone? A bunch of the young players. Scott McTominay's gone to Newcastle on loan with a permanent deal to go through at the end of the season. We had a couple of deals fall through as well. We were supposed to have Lindelof go to Spurs. Harry Maguire was going to Newcastle. They both fell through on deadline day. So we had a couple of deadline day deals for Scalvini and Yeremy Pino fall through that we needed the money to fund. Van der Beek's gone to Everton as well. I don't think I mentioned that one before, but we did reinvest plenty. Antonio Silva has come in as our Varane replacement. He joins for £56 million from Benfica. We also signed another sort of utility defender, defensive midfielder to cover lots of positions, Lucharal Gertruda. He comes in for £45 million from Feyenoord. The key thing with these players is we've gone young, mainly because we then have the potential and the potential sell on in the future, but also the salaries are so much lower, which is why we've been able to spend more on transfer fees than we've brought in, because we're now spending far less on salaries even with these new signings. Andre is another example of that. He joins for, how much should we pay for him? £13.5 million. We've also signed a striker. Santiago Gimenez is a Mexican international striker who was at Feyenoord, scoring lots of goals. We've spent a lot of money on him, but again, relatively low cost up front. And with Martial leaving in the summer, we needed another striker. And then on deadline day, Jeremy Frimpong comes in as a new right back. Like I say, we also wanted to get rid of Lindelof, Maguire, bring in Scalvini and Pino as well. So the squad's not quite where I wanted it to be. However, if we have a look at what our best 11 would now be, it is I would suggest a significant upgrade on where we were before. Sancho is still here but injured. We are suffering a lot of injuries, actually. It's just like real life Manchester United. There's injuries throughout the squad, but I think it is now a good squad, and we now just need to make it through to the rest of the season, hopefully winning some football matches and getting ourselves into that top 6 so that I don't get fired before we can continue this job in the summer, because there is money to spend. Like I say, we've probably shaved £500,000 off the wage budget. We've got more transfer budget now than we did at the start of the window. It's very much stage 1 of what's likely to be like a 5 or 6 stage process to turn this into a proper Manchester United team again. The board just need to show some patience. Patience is very important in a situation like this. Well, that hasn't exactly gone to plan, has it? A 10th place finish in the end. Well off of where we were supposed to be. And most of the new signings didn't really work out either. Apparently, this is quite a difficult job. To be fair, Antonio Silva has been good. Gertrude has been good. Andre has been fine. Jimenez has been there. I mean, when he's played quite well. He's just not... The simming hasn't given him much game time. And you know what? They are actually quite good signings. It's just been horrible form that definitely needs fixing. The fact the board haven't sacked me yet is remarkable. They are very disappointed with my leadership of the team, though. Apparently we haven't signed enough high reputation players or players who are young for the future, which is an interesting thing to miss out on both of. But they haven't fired me, so I think we're going to get the summer to hopefully do some more business and continue this rebuild. So £26 million budget isn't a lot. We're already maxing out on our wage budget, but we've got £500,000 for players leaving. Anthony Martial's deal to leave has already gone, as is Donny van der Beek's. Pellistri wants to leave, so we'll bin him off. He can leave as well. There's no point keeping anybody around who doesn't want to be here, so let's see if anyone wants him. Nobody wants him. That's a problem we're likely to continue to have. And we'll hopefully have a very different looking team when the new season comes round. And I'll still be at a job, hopefully. Okay, apparently the budget we saw before wasn't the actual budget we've got. We've actually been given £127 million to spend and an increase on wage budget. This is going to be a big summer. We do have a few players who are asking to leave because they want to play in the Champions League. So we'll get to move them on, hopefully. I mean, if we can get that kind of money for Casemiro at 32 and get another 300 grand off the wage bill, that is going to be awesome. The rest of them, I'm not devastated about any of them leaving. Now we can do some business. Well, that, boys and girls, is what's known as a big summer. £471 million spent, 269 in, and it could have been bigger because there are still players who wanted to leave who haven't got rid of, like Casemiro, Mason Mount, Wan-Bissaka. We had deals accepted for Eriksen, who turned them down, but there's been big transfers, very, very big transfers. So Van der Beek joined Everton, 15 million. McTominay to Newcastle for 12.5. We sold Diallo to Leipzig. Pellistri has gone to Hertha. Victor Lindelof to Wolves for 23 million. We then got an offer from Al Hilal for Andre Onana, which, I mean, look at the money he's earning now playing in Saudi Arabia. 61 million for him. Harry Maguire went to Atletico Madrid. Bruno Fernandes was then the next one who was subject to a big Saudi Arabian bid, which again, we just couldn't turn down. £110 million for him. £34.5 million for Dalot to go to Barcelona. That adds up 265 million. And then we spent that on, firstly, Matteo Ruggeri, who's come in as a new rotation left-back option for us. And then we started spending the big money. Victor Osimhen is in for £86 million as our new main striker. Florentino Luis is in as another option for us in defensive midfield. Jean-Claire Todibo, another replacement defender. We basically had to replace the entire defence. Diogo Costa replaces Onana as our goalkeeper. Ali Al-Mazrati is another defensive midfielder. Morato can cover centre-back and defensive midfield. João Felix is our Bruno Fernandes replacement, and I think we've done pretty well there. And we also spent the change on Charles de Ketelaere as well, so that we've got a backup to João Felix. All of this means our squad is now looking like a Manchester United squad. The Premier League started very well, although we did just lose to Brighton, but we had won 3 from 3. The media think we're looking good to qualify back in for the Champions League again. The board would be happy with the Europa League. But I think definitely the Champions League should be in our future. If we have a look at what the game thinks our best 11 is now, that is an incredible upgrade on the best 11 we had before. We'd still like a proper deep-lying playmaker, but we've run out of money, believe it or not. But if and when Casemiro goes, and it's his wages that are the big sticking point. No one wants to cover his wages. But if Casemiro and or Mount leave in January, the money is being spent here. This is the next big upgrade area for us. But we've fixed the defence, we've fixed the attack, we've fixed the goalkeeper. One more window, we might be able to fix midfield, and then we really can start to challenge again. Well, we've made it to the 1st of January, and we are second in the Premier League. I mean, we've got the major advantage of the fact that we literally only have to worry about the Premier League, no European football at all for us, which should stand us in good stead for the second half of the season. Although we are 7 points behind Liverpool, everyone else involved in this title race, apart from Crystal Palace, I'm not sure who invited them, but everyone else involved in this title race has got European football to worry about. So fingers crossed. And clearly the hierarchy at Manchester United feel like their club is finally being left in good hands, because Alex Ferguson has decided he can now retire as a club director and leave the club in my hands. What a gesture from him. We've got a bunch of players who want to leave, so obviously we're going to have to deal with some of this in January. We've also run up quite the overdraft with the transfers that we've done so far, and it looks like while I've been simming through that first half of the season, what remaining budget we had has been taken off me because of that. So I guess in order to buy, we're going to have to sell. But I mean, to be fair, there's a couple of £100 million worth of talent there that we could sell to allow us to buy. So it's doable. Marcus Rashford is outscoring Victor Osimhen at the moment. This is a weird game, isn't it? Well, that was a window that didn't necessarily go the way I expected it to. We've basically broke even on money, but that's involved selling some players I didn't expect to sell. For example, Antonio Silva at a cut price deal, but he wanted to leave, so he's gone to AC Milan. Casemiro is finally off the books. His £300,000 a week salary, no longer my problem. Aaron Wan-Bissaka joins him at Al Ali. In fact, should we go to the screen that actually gives us all of the transfers? Because I think there were more than that. We have also sold, we loaned Florentino Luis to Brighton for the season. We've also got Santiago Gimenez has gone to West Ham on loan for the season. Christian Eriksen went to Brighton for £7.5 million, and we've taken all that money, used it to bring in Nico from Porto for £51 million to be our basically step one towards fixing the midfield. Vanderson has come in as our new rotation right back option, with Wan-Bissaka and Dalot both having left the club in the last 6 months, and we've signed an 18-year-old Brazilian, because you got to sign an 18-year-old Brazilian every once in a while, haven't you? Results have been pretty good throughout January. So the Premier League table looks like this. We did beat title rivals Liverpool, which is huge. So we're only 6 points behind them going into the second half of the season. And just for our regular check on what the game thinks our best 11 is now, it's getting there. I'm still not happy with that. I'm still not over the moon with this. But Rashford's got 19 goals, so I can't argue too much about the other side. It's a much better team than we had a year and a half ago. Let's see how we get on in the second half of the season. Oh, by the way, loads of money left. Loads of money. So summer should be fun. And we've ended up finishing third in the Premier League. So that's part one of our goals done. We are back in the Champions League. We're not exactly competitive for the league title, though, but back in the Champions League is huge. And also with the potential of a trophy and FA Cup final coming up against Arsenal. So we're going to go and play the FA Cup final first. I can't believe Osimhen only got 15 goals over the course of the season. That feels genuinely quite surprising. Maybe we're not playing to Osimhen's strength, but we do have the same grumpy boys who were grumpy before, although nobody agrees or disagrees with them anymore. So we will see how things pan out there. The money we had left over from earlier in the season is still here. I think that's that. I think that's a new budget. But let's go play the FA Cup final and try and pick up a trophy. We didn't win. Penalties. Arsenal beat us on penalties. Very, very, very sad, which does mean we end the season trophyless once again. And now we crack on with the next phase of the great rebuild. With us back in the Champions League, we should now be able to attract a higher caliber of player. There's obviously going to be a few players moving on as well. The midfield definitely needs work. If we go back to our old faithful, what the game thinks our best 11 is currently, I think we definitely need a Geertruida upgrade. As much as he is great as a utility option, I don't think that he should necessarily be starting anywhere. Although Bayern Munich and Real Madrid are both lurking, so maybe he should be. I think we need an upgrade on Anthony on the right-hand side. And I don't know, is Nico a world-class central midfielder? Probably not. I mean, he literally is described as one. So, okay, he is. Maybe some upgrades at the back as well. There's money to spend. There's players to move out. Let's do more summer transfers. This is the year we put together our title-winning team. I don't understand Rashford. It's genuinely baffling how many goals that man scored that season. Insane. Oh, another very, very productive transfer window headlined by the signing of Yeremy Pino. We finally got our man in a £123 million deal, and that is just the tip of the iceberg. So much business both in and out, including even before the season ticked over, a number of players coming in. Alan Varela is a new defensive midfield player, comes in from Porto for £66 million. Lille Abada, a right midfield replacement for Anthony, from Celtic for £28.5 million on his release clause. Gonzalo Inacio, a new centre-back, because we need these upgrades everywhere. And then we started the sales. Jadon Sancho going to Al Ali on a £700,000 a week contract for £36 million. Charles de Ketelier, who was unhappy at not really being used last year, has gone to play in Mexico. I mean, he'll tear Mexico up. It's a very strange career choice for a 24-year-old Belgian international. Andre has gone to Real San Sebastian for slightly less than we paid for him. Florentino Luis has gone out on loan to Chelsea after his loan at Brighton last year. And, I mean, it's not unusual for Chelsea to pay loads more money than Brighton have paid 6 months before. But it is weird for them both to be loans. Vanderson has gone to Monaco for £18 million. He served his purpose as a backup player for 6 months and has now gone back to France on a cut price deal. Santiago Jimenez has gone to Napoli as their Osimhen replacement, presumably, and is scoring goals for fun over there, only on loan as well. So he still might end up justifying all that money we spent on him early on. Matteo Ruggeri has gone to Newcastle for just slightly more than we paid for him a year ago, mainly because I realised we didn't have enough homegrown players in the squad for the Champions League. So we've had to get rid of some of the foreign players and replace them with homegrown. We did it with one guy, Tyreek Mitchell, the replacement for Ruggeri, £37.5 million from Crystal Palace. And then the rest of the new signings, Devin Wrench, just another utility player who can cover anywhere in the back four in the DM roles. I think we're going to get a lot of game time out of him. We've already seen Yeremy Pino is in. Xavi Simons is in as the replacement for De Ketelier as another attacking midfield, central midfield attack option for us. João Neves is to give us a little bit more strength in the ball-winning midfielder position. We managed to pick him up for his release clause at £49 million. And then Neymar was available for just 81 grand a week on a free transfer and was happy to be an impact sub. So I doubt we'll use him very much, but it seemed silly not to sign him. So Neymar is in as well, all of which means our best team is now that. And probably more exciting than the best team being that is just the strength of the bench that we've got now. So in addition to the likes of Anthony that we've talked about before, who's dropped down out of the first team, Højlund, Frimpong, all guys who were first teamers last year. We've got some of the new guys, Neves, Simons. We've got Neymar not even getting onto the bench of that best 11. Mitchell, Abada, Wrench. This is a good good team. And we've started the season pretty well, a draw with Fulham aside. We've got unbeaten start to the season. The media think we are looking good for Champions League qualification spot again. And of course, we are back in the Champions League. So fingers crossed. This season, we can win something. I think that's a team good enough to win something now. Let's go and win something. So first half of the season down, we are tucked nicely into third place, 7 points behind, and now top of the table Chelsea. We play Liverpool next, and probably most exciting of all, we don't even have a bunch of grumpy players in the squad, which is very unusual going into January. Leo Labada is the only one who's asking to leave, which I guess is fair enough, because if we have a look at the squad planner, he was kind of brought in pre-Neymar. Neymar obviously has jumped above him in the pecking order. I think we can probably let Abada go. Arsenal are interested in taking him on loan, but if there's anyone who's interested in taking him permanently, 29 million is what we paid for him. I think we just let him go. It's another non-homegrown player out of the squad, which helps with that side of things. Talking of the non-homegrown players and Champions League stuff, finished third, or in fact, we've not finished because 2 more games to go, isn't there? Because the Champions League is weird now, but currently sat third in the Champions League after 3 games. I mean, the top of the Champions League is exactly the same as the top 3 in the Premier League. So there's clearly 3 quite good teams around. It's going to be difficult to do that whole winning a trophy thing that we'd like to do, especially because any extra money that we had has been taken off us because of this. And it's not even completely my fault because the transfer debt isn't that much worse than it was when I arrived. We are just hemorrhaging money, seemingly, and I don't really know where it's going. Not my concern. Let's sell Abada, get ourselves back within the wage budget. I don't think we actually need to bring anyone else in. I think this can be a very quiet January unless someone else decides to leave. And fingers crossed, we can win a few more matches and win a Premier League, win a Champions League, win a thing. We want to win a thing. Well, this is usually a sign we're getting close to the finish line. We have a really quiet transfer window. Leo Labada did go out on loan to Napoli. Neymar actually also wanted to go out on loan, but ended up not getting any offers in for him, and we triggered his contract extension anyway. So Neymar is sticking around. There's money in the bank and potentially more money on the way, because if we head back into our inbox, we are being linked with a tycoon takeover, which would go down very nicely. January results, bit of a mixed bag, but Premier League still looking very winnable. 15 games to go, and we're only 6 points off the top of the table. Champions League, we qualified in 5th place for the knockout round, so also very winnable. Let's go and win something. I feel like I keep demanding we win. I would really like us to win something. We've spent quite a lot of money at this point. Oh, I told you we were close, and goodness me, are we close. We've finished 2nd in the Premier League, 2 points behind Liverpool, level on points with Chelsea. All 3 of us well ahead of Manchester City. I'm not quite sure what's gone on with Manchester City and why they've fallen off quite as far as they have. We've finally got Victor Osimhen scoring goals as well. We switched him to an advanced forward rather than a poacher this year, and it certainly seems to have made a difference. Who is he against? He's against Devin Wrench, who's upset that he wants to start more games. I can cope with that. Diogo Costa wants a new deal. I can cope with that too. We still haven't won a competition yet, because we've got the Champions League final. We're against AC Milan in the Champions League final. We beat Real Madrid in the semi-final. We beat Bayern Munich in the quarter-final. This is our opportunity to put Manchester United back on the map. Let's go play the Champions League final. And that, boys and girls, is Manchester United returned to where they should be. Champions League winners, 2-1. Went behind early on. Goals from Højlund and Simons, both of them substitutes, by the way, coming on to grab the goals. Apparently, Manchester United do quite well in Champions League finals where subs come off the bench and score important goals. But there we have confirmation that Manchester United are back. Champions League win. I mean, it's just, it's an infinitely better team than the one that was at the club previously. Obviously, we've got the likes of Osimhen, Rashford, Rashford being as good as Osimhen is interesting. But João Felix Costa doesn't want to renew his contract yet, wants to wait until after the World Cup. But Jeremy Pino, Simons, what a group of players this is that we've assembled at this football club. And we've done it all whilst paying less on salaries than the club was paying when I arrived, because we haven't got any of those hugely bloated salaries apart from the one that was left over from the previous regime. And there's not a lot we can do about that one because he's also one of our best players. But that, boys and girls, I think qualifies as Manchester United having been rebuilt. If you enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.